I accomplished a lot. I think I hit the nail on the head. It's like if I could turn myself inside out and show people what I'm made of and who I am, this record really shares authentically who I am.
First of all, Billy, congratulations on your new album. It's fantastic. It's heavy when it needs to be. It's catchy in all the right places, and I can use it instead of my morning coffee to pump me up for a day ahead. It feels authentic and straight from the heart. What is your secret to keep it fresh and real after all these years?
Well, first, Greg, thank you for having me, and I thank you for the compliment and support. There is no secret. It's a very simple thing for me. I've been doing it for such a long time, and I think the more I do it, it becomes easier for me to express what I have inside of me. And this record is the second record for BillyBio. I think every record that every band that I fell in love with, that it was their second record that really made defined who they were and what they stood for. The first record you make, and it's quick. You put it out, and you don't really have a chance to really get to know each other so much. But then you go on tour, and you spend a lot of time on the road playing those songs and growing as a band. And the second record is what you cut your teeth on, and it defines. It's like the meat and potatoes of every band that I've ever loved. For Biohazard, it was Urban Discipline. For me, it's Leaders and Liars. And that second record determines the path for your career. BillyBio is like taking a cable and sticking it into my soul and sharing those feelings and those emotions and that energy with you. So I strive to capture that energy properly and as authentically as I can to try to communicate what I'm feeling.
What is the story behind the title of this album? Who are the leaders and who are the liars? And is there really any difference between them?
Well, I think that the true leaders are the ones that stand by your side, the ones that have their arm around you, that don't ask to be put on a pedestal, that don't ask for your vote, that don't care if you like them or not. The leaders that run the world and our countries and make these policies are the ones who all they care about is your vote. They don't care about your feeling. They don't care about how they do while they're not in power. The minute they get in power, then they have the power that they want and they need and they crave for. So there's an old joke: how do you know when a politician is lying? Because his lips are moving.
Right.
It's well-known fact. If we haven't taken anything away from the pandemic, it's the fact that our leaders are full of shit, and I think that they're just liars. It's how can we believe that? It seems so obvious that there's a potential and possibility that a pandemic would explode like it did. How can we not be prepared? How could there not be protocols set in place that if this happens, this is the path that we take? It seemed like a bunch of chickens running around with their heads cut off.
On Turn the Wounds, you said, when I'm down on my luck and I can't seem to win. And you also say, I gotta turn these wounds into wisdom. I think this is a very important message to anyone currently dealing with difficult situations in life, wherever they may be, when it's easy to think that whatever they are going through, it's going to last forever.
Yeah, of course. I think that everyone has problems. Everyone has issues to deal with. There's always a lesson. There's, they say that either you win or you learn a lesson. And that's the message of life for me. Everything's a lesson.
Once the music is released, people across the world with different backgrounds, different struggles are going to be differently affected by the lyrics. For some people, your words are going to carry a lot of importance. As an artist, do you feel a responsibility for your words and the message you put out in the world?
I don't create my music and my art for anyone else. I create it just as a self-expression for myself, period. I do realize, in my whole career, I've realized that if you say something constructive, it's beneficial. If you say something destructive, it's hurtful. So I do respect that. All the favorite music that we listen to, that we like because they touched nerves. They hit home. They hit us in the heart at a certain moment. And sometimes when I'm super excited and super manic, I listen to a certain band or a certain type of music or a certain song. If I'm sad and sullen and introverted, I'll listen to another band. Yeah, that's what makes us all fall in love with all the bands that we love. You know, it's music that has is provoking, whether it makes you up or down or makes you think or just entertains you, makes you want to dance around your bedroom. It's all, those are the great bands and those are the great moments of music that we all fall in love with. And I absolutely live for that. Not just as an artist, but as a fan.
And for me, that was always the essence of hardcore music, to have a place where you can let out your anger, at the same time finding support, inclusivity.
I wrote a song on Leaders and Liars. There's a song called Our Scene. And at first, the title of the song originally was called My Scene. And I later changed it to Our Scene. But it was about how disenfranchised I felt, how much of an outcast I felt. It seemed like I had a lot of friends, but I didn't fit in with any of them. And it just seemed like I was dancing to my own drum beat and everybody else was listening to a different song. Then found hardcore, the metal scene, the punk rock scene. And that is a moment in all of our lives where suddenly we feel like we found a family, we found to belong to. We found similarities with more people than dissimilarities. And at that moment, I felt like I could be myself. And that's been my whole life. I feel much more comfortable in those surroundings than I do anywhere else. People often ask me, what do you see that's different from when you started in the music scene throughout the 90s and 2000s? I see similarities than I see differences. I see there's people who kind of bond together on, similar beliefs and similar music. And that's always been there. There's, as far as like popularity and things, that's a whole different thing. That's just has to do with media. But that underground music scene, that kind of energy has always been there. And sometimes it's more popular, sometimes the media blows it up, and sometimes it's more underground. But that feeling that people get when you finally go to a show and it's a band that you like, and you look over and you meet somebody else who's banging their head the same way, or they're in the pit, or they're pumping their fists in the air the exact same way you are, you look at them and you're like, wow, this is some of my people. I feel comfortable here. So that part of the music scene, it's always been there, and it's fucking awesome. I remember distinctly what it was like to find that feeling of belongingness.
What I find really endearing about you is your relationship with your fans, the way you talk about them and how basically you consider them your close friends.
I think it comes from, that's a good question. I don't get that question. I don't think I've ever gotten that question before. It's important to me, and I think, what I think it comes from, Eric, is that it's almost like I feel like I turn myself inside out. I show my vulnerabilities, I show my insecurities, I show my securities, my pride, my feelings, my emotions, and my deepest secrets. And the more prolific I've gotten as an artist, the more I've shown. And because of that, I feel like when I meet somebody who really feels like I shared that connection with, I feel like they saw deep inside of me. So I don't consider them a fan because of that. I consider them family.
You said once, I found it so cool, that if there was like a house party, you would invite all the people, and with all those fans, those are the people that you would sit with at the kitchen table and talk for hours.
That's funny because I created that kitchen table on my Patreon. And what I do, it's kind of like my world and my life is my house party, right? So everyone's invited, all my friends are invited, but my Patreon is the kitchen table where I talk one-on-one with friends and family, people who like what I do and support me. And it's like bringing that party into a small little kitchen. I tell my stories. I have a series called Tales from the Heart Side. It's super entertaining. I've been collecting my stories over the years and writing them down. But when you write a book, there's people involved, there's organization, there's an editor, everything is thought out and over processed, in my opinion. And it's a great thing. But when I developed this idea to turn Tales from the Hard Side, the book, into a video series, it's like you mentioned before, it's like me sitting around the table and I tell stories. I tell the stories. So sometimes it's just off of my memory, and sometimes I'll go off on a tangent. I'll be talking about Metallica, and then I end up talking about Slayer. So the tales take a turn, but they're always interesting. And I think that's because it's almost like improvisation. And by what I'm doing with the video series Tales from the Hard Side is creating a more entertaining and I think more detailed recollection of all these different stories. Because if I just said, okay, how did you get on tour with Metallica? Well, I met Lars Ulrich. He insulted me, so I stood up to him and right in his face, and that's how we got the tour. He liked that. There's way more details to it. It's a great story, but there's way more details into the story behind how we got on tour with Metallica. So I like the video series, and I think what I will probably most likely do is turn the video series into a book later, because it's almost like I'm kind of regurgitating all these memories and purging all these stories off the top of my head, just from my recollection. And then once I get them out, I remember when I was in school, I was a horrible writer. My English teacher just thought I was horrible because I didn't like to follow the rules. And I don't know if I didn't like to follow the rules, but I had trouble following the rules. Most of it was grammar, punctuation, spelling. And worrying about the rules hindered my creativity. And later on in life, I stopped worrying about the rules because it was more like, fuck the rules. But what it did was it took that pressure off my shoulders, and I started writing. And I just wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. And I excreted all these ideas and all this creativity, and it was more free. It was much more elaborate because I wasn't concerned about the punctuation or the spelling or the grammar or the sentence structure. I just let the ideas flow. It was almost like, as a musician, it's like improvisation. I could sit at the piano and play. If I have to play a classical piece perfect, I'm more concerned with playing it perfect than I am giving it the emotion. But if I improvise at piano, it sounds like I just wrote this new masterpiece off the top of my head. And it's never the same twice. So having that philosophy with my stories, I don't worry about anything except just sharing my memories and sharing my feelings of what it was like, meeting Lars Ulrich at a after hours club in New York City and saying hi to him and having him kind of just brush me off in front of my friends, and what I did after. And what I did after eventually led to them taking us on tour. So those stories, they just come across better in Tales from the Hard Side. And I think if I translate that from the videos into a book, it will be way more entertaining.
Recently, you were hinting at the possibility of something new happening with you and the guys from Onyx, with whom you co-created legendary song Judgement Night from a soundtrack to a movie with the same title. Can you tell us something about it? Is it going to be like one song or maybe some bigger project?
My friends in Cypress Hill are playing a show with Onyx, and I have been working on something for a little bit. I'm always the type of, I like to talk about things that I did, not what I'm going to do.
Okay.
And the guys in Onyx reached out to me at the same time Cypress Hill announced that they were playing with Onyx. So it just hit a nerve, and I just decided to make the post. But yes, there is something brewing, and I'll tell you about it as soon as when it comes out.
Mm-hmm. Since we're talking about Judgement Night, how do you remember this song? Do you think it opened some new doors for you, for Biohazard?
No, I don't think so. I think that it was a great opportunity. I think that the soundtrack was amazing, but I don't know as far as if it opened up doors. I don't think that we didn't gain any Onyx fans. I think fans that like hip hop probably didn't like those collaborations, but I know for a fact that all the Biohazard fans, the people who like the heavy music, it gave them a different look into a different world. And that part, I think, was more, I don't know, it gave it more growth. Biohazard, I feel, was a band that came up in a time when you only liked metal. You couldn't like hardcore and metal. And you definitely couldn't like hip hop and metal. The scene was splintered into so many different, very tight cliques that we were so influenced by different types, all those types of music, that we pulled it together. And it gave people a band where we weren't just metal, we weren't just hardcore or punk rock. We didn't just have hip hop influences. We liked Chili Peppers. We also liked Beastie Boys. We liked Slayer, but we also liked Run DMC and Public Enemy and Ice-T and Metallica and Iron Maiden and Agnostic Front. And it was almost like, I think it gave people who liked music without boundaries, a band that kind of like waved that flag. And it was almost like everybody was able to say, yeah, you know what? I like Beastie Boys and I like Black Sabbath, and that's okay. So that was one of our biggest accomplishments. And I think working with Onyx, Cypress Hill, House of Pain gave us those opportunities to kind of push that message further.
Yeah, because I think that the chemistry between you guys was so natural. Like I didn't see it as a clash of styles or genres. That was so obvious. Yeah,
I think that there was a lot of parallels to hip hop and early hip hop when it was more about street. There was a lot of parallels because that's what we were singing about. So we felt the camaraderie. I remember the guys in Onyx showed up to one of the video shoots wearing bulletproof vests because they thought that our crowd was crazy. But there was more unity in the hardcore metal scene than there was in the hip hop scene. There weren't many shootings at hardcore metal shows in New York at the time, but there were a lot more violence issues at hip hop shows. So I remember laughing and saying, well, you're not here. These are all our friends. This is our family. You're cool here. You're no problems. Nobody's gonna fuck with you guys. Anyways, but yeah, it was a great time. But like I said, I think that it brought more attention. I think the metal scene accepted and liked Onyx more than the hip hop scene embraced Biohazard.
Thank you for watching my interview with BillyBio. If you would like to see more interviews and reviews, check one of the links next to my head. And I will see you next time.